Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show Podcast. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Fuego here.
We are trying something different. I have no idea how this audio is going to come out because not only are we in the car, which we tried to do before on the way back from a trip in California, but we weren't wearing lavalier microphones then. Now we have lav mics, so I don't know if it's going to be any better, some better, a lot better, or no better.
I'm hopeful that we get a significant improvement. I mean, these things have been pretty decent to us since you picked
They have
them up,
been,
so.
and honestly, it's kind of funny. Well, first off, we're also going to have rain in the background, which ideally I love because I listen to rain every night when I sleep, and thus anyone around me does the same.
We've been on enough trips together at this point where it's like, deal with it, motherfucker.
I'm pretty sure that's why Dave was so unhappy, because he's got to hear the rain every night through the freaking vent because our vent is so connected. But nonetheless, there he goes, it picks up. So nonetheless, we are trying it this way because we have quite a car ride home from where we just were, and frankly, I'm still behind a couple of weeks on the podcast, so I got to get content where content getting is good.
There you go.
So we just left the special screening of the documentary Hail Satan, ? That was held at the Tucson theater called The Loft, was it?
The Loft Cinema, yep.
The Loft Cinema.
Really cool theater, by the way.
It was a really cool theater. It was just Film Bar on a bigger scale.
Much more so. Yeah, they showed primarily smaller art house and like revival, older big pictures and stuff like that, but they also have a small screening room up on their second floor. They have like they go and they do solar shows, one of the guys was telling me. They do all kinds of stuff for kids and for education, which is really cool. So anytime there's that extent of community involvement, it always really warms my heart and impresses me.
And the interesting thing about it was that they had a Q&A afterwards, which did not follow the movie when we saw it back at the Phoenix Film Festival. So, and in addition to that, there was actually a 6-minute short film made by a U of A student, or U of A, right?
Yeah. Yep. University of Arizona.
That's what's in Tucson.
The Pussycats. Favorite down my ass.
So, obviously a sports fan, not that team. But yeah, so
Go Devils.
They had a long Q&A afterwards that ended up going like 45 minutes when I think almost to an hour actually.
It was closer to an hour when I was looking at the time, and then the battery was about to die on my camera, and I was like, "Rah."
Good timing. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a long video. Oh well. It'll happen because we got a few people talking about the movie afterwards and stuff. It's going to just be one big video.
Yeah, it's going to be a super video at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, that could probably be a podcast too. So
yeah, in its own right. Just
extra content.
I mean, hopefully the audio is good on the Q&A.
It'll be good enough from my camera. I mean, the audio is actually not terrible in there, so we'll see. It'll sound like it's coming through speakers, but that's fine.
Yeah, I was anticipating maybe in the 20 to 30 minute range, but they just kept going with questions, and it was comprehensive. And
how uncomfortable was that moment?
It got heated. And the fact that woman
that
even
lady,
kept talking shit too, like later on.
You didn't understand what I was saying. I didn't say that shit.
I think she'd had some drinks
lady.
too.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah, like it was so funny because she stood up and she's totally like this old, like it's exactly what you'd expect the old woman at the organ in the church to look like. Yeah. And so she stands up and it's like, I just want to know, do you denounce Jesus Christ when you do your blood ritual, when you indoctrinate yourself?
When you are you going to slice your tongues out?
Yeah, are you going to cut your tongues out and end up in the pits of hell?
Because
How do you
know
feel
that's
about that?
what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you're just I turned around and like looked at her and was still trying to steady the shot. I'm like, I have to take a look. I have to see what this woman looks like.
The whole audience was like, what? Like there was so many people that were like, huh?
And Michelle and Stu and the people on stage who you've seen in the film were very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they
because
just didn't know how to react.
that's the shit that they get all the time.
Yeah.
That's the lunacy of it.
And you knew that there was going to be at least a couple people in the theater that were like spy kind of people, you know, and we're just...
Watch, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna tell them what for.
Yeah, or I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna investigate for the Lord, that sort of thing. What these evil Satanists are doing, and yet they're not Satanists in the traditional sense of the word. In fact, the Satanic Temple, they're not like actual traditional Satanists.
Not at all. They don't worship
believe
anything.
in Satan.
They don't know.
They
believe in the.
They use the idea.
They use the idea of what Lucifer stood for back when he was fighting an oppressive lord, what he deemed was an oppressive lord.
Yeah, and really Paradise Lost, as they mentioned, being one of the biggest things that they drew inspiration from, as far as just the whole renegade aspect and the thinking for yourself and questioning authority. And
one's body is inviolable.
Yes, exactly. And I mean,
so you can't tell them whether they can have abortion or not. That's it's an interesting thing, and
it truly is.
What's funny is that lady was like a perfect example of like what those kinds of people expect when they. What I would imagine is that lady, and probably many people like her, would have expected to go into a room full of people going to see this movie, and would have expected, had she stood up and said something like that, would have expected to be almost accosted, both verbally and physically. But in actuality, the rest of the crowd just laughed at her, because what they don't realize is that they are the crazy ones to a lot of us. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that all Christians are crazy by any stretch. I'm talking about these fanatical ones that will subversively sneak into a Hail Satan screening and try and proselytize, which is one of the things that the Satanic Temple espoused against, which was we don't do that. We don't proselytize. We don't pander. We don't tell people that they should do this or that. We don't. People come to us, that's the point. We're not out there trying to peddle our stuff the way organized religions do.
Yeah, and a really fascinating narrative that just really came to me that's a big thread in the film is that, as I even mentioned when we were doing our exit interviews with a few people and stuff like that, that all religion does have, and even the Satanic Temple obviously has the potential for extreme fanaticism, and we see it on display in the movie. In the movie, yeah. In one of their own members. Yeah, who gets too extreme and, just...
They literally disavow the Detroit chapter.
Yeah.
Because
and their leader, especially.
Jax's... Yeah, Jax is the name of the leader. And they actually touch on that in the Q&A afterwards, because someone asked about Jax.
They pulled the curtain back a little bit, even more so than in the movie.
And that was actually cool, but mostly because I like gossip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was an overall interesting experience. We got to talk to Stu, one of the main guys involved, and the
lawyer.
The lawyer, of the crew. And then Michelle was there too, who knows. Oh boy, here we go.
None other than our very own Susie von Slotta.
Yep.
I mean, you take one look at her badass tattooed, makeup, and it's very just awesomely put together, as is our beloved Susie. And so yeah, you're like, yeah, they would be friends.
Yeah, I could see them hanging out. So that's yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting experience. I got to meet the dude that originally commented on our review. He's just because he saw that during our review I said we need to talk to these people.
Yeah, and I mean, we're super glad he commented and reached out, because it in turn became a dialogue between Tim and Cecil, and that's how we found out about this screening, because they were also doing one in Phoenix, and I had heard about the one in Phoenix, and I was like, there's a part of me that would like to watch it again. But what really sealed the deal was when we heard that at the Tucson one specifically, because that's really the hub of the Arizona chapter. Yeah, they're based in Tucson, and obviously there's going to be followers or members, I guess is a better way of putting it, throughout the rest of the state. But it's really based in Tucson, the main members, and it's Stu and Michelle, who are featured prominently in the movie, living down there. So
yeah, it's nothing I'd ever join, but I completely...
I respect the hell out of them.
I completely respect what they're doing.
No pun intended.
And oh boy, this is late. We're driving back 2 hours and it's 11 at night after we've both worked today. So
Yep.
it's one of those things. Forgive the yawns, guys. I'm doing my best here.
Keep it together.
I'm doing this podcast partially to try and keep myself awake. So
yeah, it's because we're driving. We got a decent drive. We got probably about another 90 minutes or so. Nothing like driving to Dallas, though. Thank God.
Oh my God, never again. Never again.
I'll spend the extra couple $100 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I still overall saved money, but when you consider time and wear and tear on the vehicle, probably not.
Yeah, significant.
Yeah,
significant. You know, what fascinated me the most about this group is the classifying themselves as a religion, but yet denouncing it in the same way.
I think I might have mixed that up. I don't think they technically have religious status. What they got was they got approved for the tax exempt status that religions get.
Yeah.
So I don't know that officially qualifies them as a religion or not, but they now have the tax exemption that all other religions do. So
well, and there's a lot of fascinating points that came up during the Q&A, and we urge you to check that out in its entirety. But I mean, whether it was commentary about how religious horror films can really just almost make people believe in these, really very wild and wacky. I don't know. I know a lot of people that believe in demons and evil spirits, and obviously a lot of people that were up on that stage today do not, and they think that sort of cinema, perpetuates the belief in it, which I thought was interesting. Michelle was especially outspoken about how she used to, and it stemmed from a question from somebody where he was like, I wanted to see more exorcist type shit, and ritualistic whatever, and blah,
like, where's
blah,
the
blah.
scary stuff?
Yeah. And we're like, no, they're into the performance aspect of it, but they use the performance strictly as metaphor to get point across, and I don't know, pretty much, and even the fact that they gave Jesus props up there, it's at the end of the day, I find interesting ways of using them both as fictional characters. I mean, Jesus Christ was a real person, Jesus of Nazareth, but was he the Son of God? Highly unlikely is what I would say, but still a very wise man. And the fact that the dude who commented on our stuff was like, I respect the fuck out of Jesus, man, and he had a lot of good things to say, and he brought to mention quite a few of the best points about not just being brazen and in public with your prayer and separation of church and state and all these different fascinating things, which Jesus very much is somebody who was raised Reformed Baptist and has a Bible teacher at a private Christian school for a father, and no secular instruction at a school until I was at ASU, when I turned 18. So I mean, it's just very fascinating for me seeing how much this group is relatable to my sensibilities, and the fact that they're all so well versed and very intellectual and just very sharp people, and I don't know.
Well, one guy that's part of the international board, he said that he's like, we have Christians that are part of the Satanic Temple. He's like, we have Muslims that are part of the Satanic Temple. He's like, we're not an exclusionary group, you know what I mean? And a lot of people see the value in more than one thing.
Yeah. Well, and then there was also other hot topics like the whole, oh, you guys look all whitey up there and blah,
that
blah,
was
blah.
kind of it. At first I
didn't realize what exactly she was saying. I'm like, did she say whitey?
She said silo-y.
Silo-y.
She's like very silo-y. And then she said, a lot of white people and stuff like that. I was like...
And yet in the documentary, there's lots of African-American people shown and lots of,
well, and they point out, they're like, Michelle pulls off white, but she, she's not trying to. She's Mexican. It's just the way she looks. People just assume she's white.
Yeah. No, so, she looks very much...
It was an interesting point, but again, a couple people asked questions. I was like, really? Like, she's asking, what do you guys intend to do as far as reaching out to minority communities? And they literally had just gotten done saying, we don't reach out. People come to us.
Like, we're not trying to indoctrinate people.
Not only are they not trying to indoctrinate people, but they made a very valid point that they put targets on their backs whenever they go public proclaiming to be Satanists. Yeah. People don't understand. They immediately jump to the worst thing possible. They jump to, the crew in Hereditary, as opposed to, people that aren't that way. You know what I mean? And so
I would imagine it's especially difficult for somebody like Stu being in the field of law. You know, I mean, that is a big time reputation tainter, and would really affect his income and job prospects and all kinds of things.
And they also said that they try not to get political. Like, they only get political insofar as they're trying to make sure that state governments don't prefer one religion over another. Like they say, no governmental body shall shall show preference for one religion or another. And so they are getting involved in politics in as much as they're trying to make sure the government actually adheres to what they're supposed to be doing. But they're not political in that they weigh in on political subjects outside of the things that directly involve their organization. So one lady towards the end stood up and was like, so as a teacher, I just wanted to get your opinions on, like, you know, since she actually said, since, you know, the Satanic Temple, you know, kind of goes hand in hand with, like, the anti-vaxxer movement.
And you're just like, where did that come from?
What kind of false equivalency are you making here? Yeah. And so she's like, I just want to know, you know, what your guys' stance is on that. And they even twice were like, what do you mean? I don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, we don't know what you want us to agree or disagree with.
And it's like, no, and I'm literally wanting to yell out, they just said they're not political, and you're literally
asking a loaded political question
with that has literally nothing to do with what they're here about.
Yeah, like, and serious social stigma associated with it too, especially since I have a close friend who is a anti-vaxxer. I actually have a couple close friends.
Why? Why are they still close friends? Why be friends with idiots?
I don't know.
If you ever have a kid, they can literally cause your kid to get extraordinarily sick.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. But I'll just call them Mark and Jacob, and I'll just say that
very biblical of you.
They were both raised religious.
Either that or very fashionista of you. Mark Jacobs, huh?
Yeah, it says a lot. I like it. I just reversed their names. Yeah, but you're right, though. There were people who I thought were trying to lead them into giving TST affiliations that they don't really care about, and just is not their concern, and that they're not really to tell people one way or the other about. And that's the one thing that I really like the most about them, is that they're not out there deliberately trying to indoctrinate, like we talked about. They're not really telling you how to believe. They're telling you to not allow people to tell you how to believe. Like, right. That's what they're saying, and it's you know, think for yourself, question authority. It's really basic, and you know, I don't know. There was one of the first songs I ever wrote as a kid when I was like deciding I didn't know if I believed in all the Christian stuff that my parents had been jamming down my throat for the entirety of my life was, I don't know in whom you trust, just don't believe because you're told you must. I wrote that when I was like 16, and it's still like a credo for my life, because don't take anything at face value, investigate things, you know, don't believe in fairy tales, you know, look to science and things with actual factual evidence and stuff like that, which is really what TST presents themselves to me to be champions and proclaimers of. And so for that reason, I mean, they have gained my respect, you know. Really
yeah, that's the funny thing. Like, I really wish that a lot of the organized religions would actually take on some of their tenets because the organized religions are just so confused and befuddled, and their congregations don't adhere to their own rules because they're so stiff and unrealistic for today's day and age. And it's like, that's the weird thing. Like,
there's massive.
It's not that we're drinking the Kool-Aid by any stretch. It's just that we see the value in, you know, as third party, separated, intelligent human beings, we can literally see the difference with how this organization is run versus how the Catholic Church is run, which, you know, is notorious for hiding child molesters in new congregations. You know, like, which is worse? You know, which is worse? The Catholic Church that does that, or the Satanic Temple that merely espouses, you know, self-worth and, self-thought and free thought and stuff like that. It's not. There are no blood rituals. There is no satanic worship. They hate the word worship, period.
No.
Like, it's so interesting. And again, I know I sound like I'm converted, but it's just funny because they have literally, and they say this at the end, they've just given a name to something that so many people feel.
It's just a very loaded name and term with a big stigma behind it.
Super
and honestly,
loaded.
I will say that if maybe they had some sort of different name for what they were doing.
No one's going to listen, though.
Yeah, it has to be that
It
extreme,
has to be that shock value.
It has to have the shock value, which is one thing that I do feel like
otherwise
a lot of them
Flying
get
Spaghetti
off
Monster Party would be big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I will say I do feel like a lot of them get off on the shock value aspect of what they're doing, and it empowers them.
There's no doubt members of the organization that feel that way.
It's not everybody, but at the core, I think it's people more so like Stu that are just incredibly well versed in both science and knowledge and even politics and religion to that degree, and Lucien being another one, their main, the face of the organization at this point. Thank goodness it didn't end up being the horned guy at the beginning, and it did start out as a publicity stunt. They're like, this is a publicity stunt, and it just grew into something much bigger over the course of the entire movement, in my opinion. And it's just an intriguing documentary in the form of the fact that it's funny and it's informative, and you see how the movement grows. And I just want that DVD, man, that home release with hours and hours of bonus footage, from unused interviews and plot angles that perhaps they started to pursue, because they worked on this for 3 years, they said.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there were so many like rabbit holes they went down that didn't amount to something that Penny Lane thought could fit into her narrative.
How many times when you hear that name does the song play in your head?
Every single goddamn time.
I was like, fuck.
Now, truth be told,
that poor girl.
Yeah.
Like the song. Yes, like the song.
Yes,
fuck
like
you.
Thank you. I should probably legally change my name.
Yep.
My parents were hippies. No, but it's honestly made me want to explore more of what she's done. She's done a handful of other documentaries, and a question that you had me touch on with some of the people that we interviewed was, does this have sequel viability? And I would say that it definitely does, because of the ongoing struggles and
the tax exempt thing. That's a whole thing you could touch on.
And even the international growth, and maybe
continuing fight with the Baphomet statue.
Yeah. So there's enough that There's lots of unfinished business and, just loose ends, I guess. Lucian ends. Or Lucius, or what is it?
Lucian, yeah.
Lucian or Lucius? I was trying to remember which one, but no.
Not Dorian.
Yeah.
You said that during the Liz one. I was like,
oh, did I? Oh, you're just like, ooh.
I just was like, don't say it during the stew one. Don't say it during the stew one. But he said it first, so.
Yes.
So yeah, it was. It's an interesting thing, this Satanic Temple. I couldn't resist getting a present for a friend, a little shirt. They had some interesting shirt designs, and one of them said "Hell's Bells" on it in pink.
But they spelled it like bells, like bell,
bell the ball and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's like a pink lady thing.
I made a purchase too. I got a magnet that I'm going to put on my fridge.
Well, I did get.
And I got a little pin.
Yeah, I got a dog tag, because we have the Z-Town dog tags, and I kind of like the dog tag thing, so it might be kind of cool to just start a little dog tag collection in the back wall. And then I also got a candle for the set, because it's got a pretty sweet Baphomet on the side of it. So
snazzy, yeah.
I don't think I'll ever burn the candle, so the Baphomet stands out. But it's a cool little candle for the set.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, it was cool for this. This is really for us, especially with the Q&A, just a deeper dive into the intention, the personalities of these people, and I did, for the most part, find the Arizona people some of the more interesting in the documentary, and the fact that they were so prominently, featured and stuff, I thought was very cool. And I got to say, she was she's nuts, but I found Jax really really interesting.
I'd like to spend one night with Jackson. That's it.
I don't know. You're like, I don't know if I can take any more because that chick is cray.
Yep.
And
I'd want to be able to.
She was punk rock as
put
fuck,
earplugs
dude.
in at some point.
Yeah. Man alive. Yeah. But
Hellcat, that one. Ooh.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Well, from Detroit, man. Shit.
Yeah.
From
one side of 8 Mile.
Rough town, yo. Rough town.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty good wrap up of our time with the Satanic Temple. I mean, I don't know that we'll be doing anything with them in the very near future. It's funny because a couple of the people on the panel were like, was one specifically who had a very specific axe to grind about psychiatrist licensing.
Oh yeah.
He came up afterwards. He's like, "So when's the Q&A going to be available?" I was like, "Oh, within a couple weeks, probably." He's like, "Okay, yeah," because he's like, "Were you going to edit it or just put it all up?" I was just going to let the whole thing go. And he's just like, "Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I was hoping so." I was like,
yeah, he didn't chime in initially.
He's like, I was just kind of bummed that the whole, what was it? The not deep web. What was the black?
I don't know. It was gray something.
Gray.
I'm trying to remember now.
Greyhounds, the gray
matter.
The gray matter, the gray worm.
Gray something. God damn it.
We're all over the place. We've gone from Game of Thrones to Brains to. All right, so.
but it was an issue. It was about the
it's all about the fact that
getting...
there's so many so many licensed psychiatrists and psychologists that are spreading such deep misinformation and perpetuating the satanic panic thing, and he was just harping on over and over that there were so many accredited shrinks that shouldn't be able to do the things that they do.
Yeah, because they're implementing their own agenda, and it's an extreme fanatical one.
Yep.
And that's really horrifying to think about. Yeah, and it can cost lives in the case that he was describing and stuff. And it was funny because he didn't have as much to say like early on in the Q&A, but then when he got going, man, he was ramped up.
He kept going back to it.
Yeah.
Here's the scary thing, right? Here's something that I consider pretty scary. One fanatical person from a religion can be considered generally write-offable in as much as, they're just crazy, they're just taking it too far. The thing about certain levels of Catholicism and Christianity is that, like that woman tonight that was so fervent and had to get her little digs in, the problem with people like that, who aren't necessarily fanatical, but they are in as much as they're willing to go into a room full of other people and stand in the middle of it and tell them that they, should cut their tongues out and go to hell. Like, the problem is that person isn't write-offable, because as soon as you write off that person, there's another Christian over here that's willing to back them up and be the same staunchness. And same with Catholics. And I'm sure there's examples in every religion, but it seems to me that is...
It happens with
yeah, but it seems like... I don't know, man. It seems like there's a lot more... the same sort of Midwestern blind Trump follower seems like they would be the same sort of Midwestern blind religion follower. Do you know what I mean? Someone that doesn't necessarily all the way think for themselves. And that's scary. Like, again, that's part of why I'm into the free think thing. Like, I think you should be able to think whatever way without people coming down on you about it. Like, it's funny, when I told my mom we were coming to cover this, actually.
Oh boy, did you?
I did.
I did not tell my parents.
No, because I was at dinner with my mom, or late lunch with my mom and producer Dave, because it was after the event I had to film for my sister. So we were there, and she asked, what was going on this weekend. Because we had to move our Mother's Day meal, and so I told her that Sunday we're going to be filming a monster movie behind the scenes, which that's tomorrow, so that's exciting. But the other thing, I was like, and when I told her, I was like, tomorrow we're actually going to do something that you won't like, and she's like, oh, what's that? I was like, we're going to go cover an event surrounding the Satanic Temple. And she's just like, you're right, I don't like that. I was like, no, but you got to understand, like, that we're doing it because we covered the movie, and we're covering it as essentially a journalistic organization.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're covering it with an objective mindset.
Which is how journalists are supposed to approach coverage.
100%.
And in my estimation, it rarely happens anymore in this modern.
Oh,
digital age.
I agree. But
every journalist.
But
is
I'm, you know, and I'm
slanted to-
interested. I'm like, they just have a different viewpoint. Honestly, I told her, I'm like, it's no different than, you know, I forgot the exact analogy I used, but it was perfect. But, you know, it's no different than going to a mall and just looking in all the stores to see what they're offering. You know what I mean? And it's not that I'm interested in one, and it's not that because we're here covering it, we're going to be converted, as much as some people might think based on the way we sound that we have.
No, because we haven't.
No, exactly not. But you know, it's funny that that's the intrinsic response. Like, no, you can't do that. You're going to be, you know, and so she even said, she's like, just don't come out having been converted. And I'm like, no, that's not the thing. Like, I'm always going to believe in God because of a couple things specifically that happened to me. So
Same
it's I can be surrounded by atheists and agnostics the rest of my life. I can be in Hollywood, which is all atheists and agnostics and Scientologists, and still I'm going to have faith in God because of things that have happened to me. So,
well, and even a few people up on that stage, I felt like hinted at the fact that they can be, I mean, hey, they can be in TST and yet still
have their own version of faith. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I agree. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. So it was interesting, and that was an interesting conversation to have with my mom, because it led into like a 20-minute religion talk where, you know, I was like, I don't believe in, you know, religious fanaticism. I don't like the people. Like, I had a friend for a long time that was a very close friend who got big into religion after college, and literally said to me one day, you know, we were talking about religion and I was giving my opinions, and he's like, I'm just really sad that you're not going to be in the kingdom of heaven with me. And I'm like, why? Because I don't quote unquote say I'm Christian, even though I have faith, even though, like, because I question, because I seek truth on my own, like, I'm still a good person. I still do all the things that God wants people to do in accordance with most of the religions. Like, why would he keep me out just because I haven't done that one particular thing, which is say this or that or whatever? Like, I'm still the kind of person he'd want to let into heaven. So if your God is really that exclusionary, I don't want to be in that club anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll be out here with the rest of people that just were good people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, that's what I don't like about the religion, a lot of religions, is that rigid sticking to old ideals when we've progressed as a society, we've progressed as a knowledgeable society, and our intelligence has changed and grown, and we just know things more than we did even in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, when all of this stuff became super prevalent in our country.
As we found out in the documentary, there was a lot that I was unaware of in the fact that In God We Trust being put on, you know,
during the Cold War
and all of this different stuff. And
Dave even said it wasn't until the 50s.
Yeah.
And it's like, so our country, they say our country was built on faith. No, it wasn't.
Not at all.
No, that just came into it at a particular time during the Red Scare, when we didn't know if our country was going to be there the next day as a result of missiles.
Yeah, and in fact, we were a country based on the freedoms of just not having to be religious and not having to be affiliated with one particular ideology and stuff. And that's the true essence of freedom. When, I mean, you don't have to conform to any of that stuff. And yeah, there's just major misconceptions that people still cling to that they have no clue about, man.
I mean, obviously, I disavow any religious fanaticism in any way, shape, or form, because I know some people are going to try and listen to this and be like, well, but what about the people that are crazy on the Muslim side? And, it's not just Christians and stuff like that. And I'm not even equating the two. I'm not equating Christian fanaticism with Muslim fanaticism with Sharia fanaticism or whatever. Like, I don't even...
Well, that's why I even used the Jax example earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's not...
I feel like she's someone who took it too far.
True, within this group. So I'm not saying that anyone except TST are bad or anything. That's not the case at all. I'm saying there are bad apples in every bunch. Mm-hmm. I just like how upfront TST is about everything that they say. Like, there's no hidden thing. There's no there's no hiding priests. There's no 70 virgins. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's going to cause uber amounts of controversy outside of the people that aren't in the organization saying that there should be controversy because of it. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's just that there's an essence of being informed and just really taking the time to make sure that you are, and not the fact that they don't want to go out and recruit. I mean, when they were on stage and they were saying, if we had no new members ever join, we would be totally fine with that. We don't need more people. We're not out there trying to bring you in, and yet that did almost seem like kind of a dueling thing, though, because I feel like there's some of them who do want to bring in more people. Like having a satanic after-school program, I feel like is the kind of thing that is...
Well, that's true.
That is like a very mild form of recruitment.
I can see why you say that, but at the same time, I think they look at it as combating indoctrination more so than recruiting, right? Because
it's the whole balancing thing, just like
right. It's giving the kids another book on the shelf outside of all the Christian analogs and all the other religious metaphorical books. This is just another book for kids to choose. I think they even say that in the movie that we just wanted them to have another option. It's not
school option.
They're not trying to raise Satanists. They're just trying to level the playing field. And I honestly don't think.
Well, and some people listen to Carrie Underwood, and some people listen to Slayer.
No, but in an age where our society is weighing so heavily the idea of equality, why are these people not equal in everyone's eyes just because they like to dress in black and wear pentagrams and talk about Satan and whatnot? Like, who cares? You like to dress in white, gather in a church and talk God. It's just different conversations. Like, and I know maybe it sounds a little Pollyanna-ish, like, why can't we all just be the same and get along and all this stuff? And
I certainly don't want us to be. I want us all to be different.
Well, and I don't want us to be the same either. No, but I want us to be able to be different without being ridiculed and looked down upon for it. Like,
well, I was in high school and I was wearing my black metal shirts and all my crap like that, and people were like, I was accused in high school post Columbine that they're like, oh man, Bible teacher's kid, he's wearing bad religion shirts and he's an atheist and he's going to shoot up the school. I heard that type of shit, and it's, once again, it's just these stereotypes and misconceptions that I feel like TST is breaking down with a film like this, if somebody can have an open mind and actually watch it and just give it a chance. But people like my parents, bless their hearts, and various others will not get, as I mentioned in one of the interviews that we did for the main video, a lot of people aren't going to get past that first hurdle and give it a chance. They're just not, they're not programmed to, they're too close-minded.
I sometimes have these fun thoughts where, I wish, knowing what I know now, I could go back in time to different things. And it's
everybody feels that way, especially as we age. As we get older, there is a lot more self-reflection because there's more time to look back upon.
Well, let me say why I was thinking that. In your case specifically, if I were you, with the brain I have now, and I would get in severe trouble as a result, but if I knew rumors like that were going around about me, and I knew the people were saying it, I'd every time I walk past them, I'd look over, give them a wink and a finger gun.
Bang.
or just when they're least expecting it, if they're hanging out with a group and and they have their back to you, just kind of walk up slowly and just lean in and go, "You're first."
And then I get suspended. Well,
for what? For saying you're first?
Who the hell knows?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't get in trouble for doing that shit. Like, I was just saying, "Hey, what up?" with a finger gun. Like, that's what my fucked up brain would have had fun doing back in the day.
I played it up to a degree, but definitely not to that regard. I did get suspended junior year. I mean, I had my problems, and it was the worst being the son of a Bible teacher at a private Christian school, because anytime I got in trouble, like I'm sure you got in some trouble where they didn't send notes home or whatever. It was an internal matter at school. You get in trouble and your parents don't find out about it. But anytime I did dumb shit or got myself in trouble, they just go to my dad every single time because he's there on campus.
Yeah.
It was the absolute worst.
Yeah.
Boy, did it suck.
Yeah, that would be kind of a pain.
It was rough. It was very rough, man.
I would have demanded to go to another school.
Yeah, I had no choice in that. We were getting free Christian education because we were his students, and that was like a $5,000 a year
Look
school.
where that got you. Trust me, I know.
I did decent.
My fucking that's the same for me. I went to All Saints. That was $5,000 a year too.
And yet they didn't have to. My dad didn't have to pay it.
It's honestly, it's like $25,000 a year now. All Saints.
Well,
it's fucking insane how expensive my old school has gotten.
Well, yeah, back when I was there, like a semester of school at PC back when I was going there in 2000, 2001.
FK,
you mean? It was, well, no, PC, Phoenix Christian.
Oh, Phoenix Christian. Okay.
My dad
not Phoenix College.
My dad used to call it FK, though.
Really?
Boy, because he taught there. My dad taught at Phoenix College before he went into the private.
That's too funny.
Before he went into the private sector, my dad taught philosophy, ethics, and logic, and some history courses at Phoenix College.
That used to be one of my favorite jokes.
Phoenix College, FK.
When I was in college and people would be like, "Oh, I go to Phoenix College," I'd be like, "Oh, FK?" And they'd be like, "Well, fuck you."
Oh, FK. I have good memories of when I took some courses there.
I really only took pleasure in that because I went to Brophy, which was an all-boys school, and I inevitably faced gay joke after gay joke after gay joke.
Oh, I heard so many myself, because
Yeah.
I had friends that went to St. Mary's.
Like, why doesn't Brophy have stairs anywhere?
No, I heard that one.
Yeah.
Because fairies can
fly.
Boy, those Xavier girls were pretty hot though, man.
They were, dude.
I gotta say.
That plaid skirt shit, like, that's the thing. I'm like,
they're
like, you didn't even have any girls in your class. I was like, A, bullshit, because
right next
junior
door.
and senior year did have mixed classes.
Together, yeah.
And B, we had twice as many girls as you had in your school, just right next door.
Yeah.
So my options were way more.
Yeah, I always think of Banky and Chasing Amy, where he's like, should have dated more Catholic school girls growing up, man.
They were nuts. They were pretty wild.
Yes, all the ones that I met through my best friend Sam
Repressed
Ricketts.
as fuck.
Yeah, dude, Ricketts, as you may remember, who I haven't been friends with for years now, because he went off the political extreme deep end.
Really?
Yeah, super right-wing
Last
crazy.
I saw was that him at that party, that Cards Against Humanity party.
Cards Against Humanity party.
Yeah, it was one that Brandy was still around for. It was the only time. It's the only time I think I ever actually saw the dude.
Well, no, he was there for. He did a couple reviews with us. He did the review of
right.
Batman.
It was around that time.
Batman v Superman. Yeah.
Wow. So really, I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's been. Yeah, me and him haven't been friends for a while. He went off the super crazy, extreme right-wing political deep end after this best friend of mine. For people who are still listening here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both grew up in.
Sorry, by the way, if you are.
In the church together, and because I was in church, for 19 years of the first 19 years of my life.
They never let you out of the church? That's pretty rough.
I was forced to go, man. I was there twice on Sunday. I was forced
to
go.
I was in a church for the first 19 years of my life.
Yeah, well,
that's pretty rough.
I was in the church, quote unquote, as the term goes. But yeah, I was in private Christian school, K through 12, and then I went on Wednesday night for prayer group, and then I went twice on Sundays, and so it was
twice on Sundays,
morning and evening service. Yeah, so it was constant, man.
What kind of life was that?
And I think, well, it's the
no wonder I'm better at video games than you.
It's the kind of life that made me rebel against that sort of stuff, and made me question the authority and stuff, because I really feel like if you have something just that's really just drilled in you to that degree, there's really not a lot of middle ground. It inevitably turns into one of two things. You comply or you rebel. You know, you just totally give into it, and there's not really a lot of second guessing, or you just rage hard and rebel against it, and I did the latter.
Rage against the dying of the light.
Rage Against the Machine, which is what... I mean, I was listening to Rage Against the Machine and Bad Religion and shit like that, and so that was really what was...
Wait, 8 West?
We do not want to get on the 8 West.
Okay.
You guys are hearing us direct ourselves, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to... Wait, okay. Okay, so the 10 curves, okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That was confusing. Okay.
Yeah, everybody, there's lots of construction on the Interstate 10, which takes you from LA to Phoenix to, I mean, it goes eastward.
This bypasses it. I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
The 8, you can just, because it even says it's like bypass Phoenix, take the 8.
Yeah, if you're going down to San Diego. So.
I love San Diego. I haven't been in. I want to go to Comic-Con again.
So do I. I've never been.
I'll bet we could get press passes now.
Yeah, we would have to put
Last time we tried, I know. Last time we tried it, we were at like 5,000 though. So.
Yeah, our audience hasn't grown enough. It's just that there isn't tons of horror if not for that first like.
Oh, there's a lot of horror at San Diego.
At San Diego, I mean, it's decent. I mean,
oh no,
I know
there's a ton. Are you kidding?
Well, there's that first evening where they. I know Warner Brothers does, like Warner New Line does a showcase.
No, but there's a ton of indie horror booths there. Like, there's a lot of those there.
Yeah.
There, we get a lot of floor interviews.
Well, that's something to look into for next year.
I just want to go. I just want to get press passes and go.
The prestige of that.
I hate you so much.
Oh, I'm funny sometimes in that regard. That was a popsicle stick joke. So. But I mean, yeah, this was an interesting evening. Interesting seems to be the word that I keep falling back on, both of us, as a matter of fact. So yeah.
All right, well, I think that's a good place to call we'll just call this the Religious Cast, the Religcast.
Yeah, we're not too far out of Phoenix now.
Yeah, we still have about
30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can record another one if we want, but let's call this one here so it's not a 2-hour-long podcast. Thank you guys very much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Sorry, no video on this one. This is going to be the first podcast with no video on the channel for quite a while, but...
Hoping the audio is okay for it.
Hoping the audio is okay, and if not, fuck it. You know there's going to be another episode tomorrow, so... thank you guys very much for listening. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember...
Stay scared of organized religions. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.